I think it's going to be
Very international group.
one wonderful discussion. We got, what do we have? Sydney? Are you Melbourne or Sydney?
Melbourne, yep.
Melbourne, Florida, Montreal, New York, California,
San Jose.
Yeah.
Holla. We got someone from the Holla.
Yeah. Holla from the holla.
All right.
That's all we need.
Any interesting tidbits?
Off topic, you mean?
Yeah, like anything come up this week that is that you want to discuss? It's open season right now before we get started on our official topic.
Topics, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, topics, yeah.
I mean, I've shared in other spaces. It's something where I saw. To me, it felt like they were both good and bad about it. But there's a new customer story involving ESPN, I think, from Netherlands. So
ESPN.
Yes.
Promotional video.
So,
which I watched, Robert. I watched,
and
I
think, like having like high-profile customers where, you know, someone who can listen in and just say, "Hey, that's a brand I know," you know, is a good thing.
Yeah, I think ESPN having their name associated with Claris is going to give a big boost to ESPN's visibility in the world.
Yeah, I might take a peek over there.
I thought it was what's not to like? I mean, it is what it is, and it was you're Robert. I think was just good. I'm easy. I'll take it. It was a win. Chalk it up. Put it on the scoreboard. Hole in one. I'm running out of metaphors.
All right.
It was très bien.
Well, yeah, I mean, I encourage people to go and check it out. I think my favorite customer story is still the one they did on shock therapy. I felt like it was really encapsulating everything about like this really a small shop, you know, and like they're crumbling behind or under the weight of the piles of paper, you know, left and right. They can't even see each other from across the shop, you know, and then they bring in FileMaker and like all of the paper disappears. You get information faster, you know, in between each of them and all that stuff. It felt to me like a very nice story, and they're really in a niche market too, that like the suspension for those crazy quads and things like that. So, you know, it says to me, it says like, okay, if these people can go and use something like that, it means anyone can go and use something like that, as opposed to, well, oh, it's a tool that is meant for, you know, someone who's in accounting or someone who's into manufacturing or someone who's into whatever the vertical is. So
who has links to what Robert's talking about?
Yeah, there is the link. Show us the proof, man.
This may end up in
you know, it could be you just talking ChatGPT, man. It's just all made up.
That's right.
I mean, if you Google
Robert, we need a link here.
Claris customer stories, you're gonna get to they have them all on this one page, you know, and they each have like videos and.
Gonna make me look it up.
All right, we'll do it. I like the I think the all-time classic was the FileMaker Can Do That.
I remember that one.
Where they're all singing around like they're all dancing around like lunatics, singing some silly song.
Not the farm one, is it, Tony?
Yeah, the famous.
No. This was you're if you haven't seen this, you're all in for a treat. It's a company, I think, based out of Alaska that makes kind of souvenir type gifts. that you might not necessarily need for any practical purpose. And they made up a song, and they had decent production quality. It's very organic. Like, in other words, it was just a company that made a video with good clips, and all the employees were in the video singing. I'm gonna post it into the chat.
Yeah,
Maybe
sorry,
later
Eric.
read it.
I just there's a page under the customer one. It's customer/story.
Oh, okay.
I mean, customers, I'm sure will have
Get you there
things
too.
also,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
and they've
more direct.
actually, it looks like it's the same page. I guess
That's
they have
weird,
both
huh?
of them.
Well, when you finish one, then read the other.
I just posted the link to the FileMaker can do that.
Um,
It opens with someone singing a song, like they did their own.
Maybe you sent it to just one person and not everyone.
It hasn't come through.
yeah, I did see it.
Let me try again.
I don't either.
All right.
You need to press enter. You know that, Tony?
Yeah, it's not FileMaker. You can't just tab out of it.
Okay, there you go. The link you've all been waiting for.
So we've had custom connectors released this week
Yes.
for Claris
Well,
Connect.
I got some links to post on that here.
Yep. I've just recorded a new video for that one.
Oh, awesome.
Cool.
So,
For the custom connectors?
yeah.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so that's the
Wow.
link on product announcements, and there are a bunch of links on the bottom of that page. And then I encourage everybody to look at the Academy. There are 2 videos and certification assessments on Connect at this point. Steve's not on, or he'd probably say, oh, and there's another one coming. We just don't know when. Which probably will cover the connector builder, whatever they're called, custom
Go on, Beverly.
custom
I've been saying
connector
this for
tool.
the
There you go.
Last week, it's the Claris Connect custom connectors.
Oh
And
my
so
gosh.
Yeah,
it's
custom
quite a
connector
mouthful.
tool. Yeah.
How many connectors can a chipmunk chip?
Yeah.
For us, when we talk about CC, it's normally Canadian Club and dry, so as an alternative to beer. So, but yeah, I've been saying Claris Connect custom connectors a few times in this last week in the recording.
Yeah.
So we've just picked the WeatherBit API to demonstrate the difference between hitting it via your straight URL, insert from URL call, and also hitting it from a custom connector, and
Yeah.
how simple you
Cool.
can make it. It's a really cool platform.
Yeah.
And the yeah.
I mean, what little I've played in it, you get a chunk of JSON, and so you can copy that and share it wherever you like to somebody else, to have a connector.
Absolutely, and they're talking about putting them up on the Claris marketplace as well.
Right.
And at the moment, there's no real way to say protect your content because it is just a blob of JSON that you can move around.
Right.
I honestly think it's going to become the new custom functions, and that we're just going to be openly sharing them. And they're quite simple to put together. There's a little bit of a error checking on your JSON as well to make sure your fields are correct.
Right.
It really does extend the Claris Connect platform from, oh, I don't have that, they don't have my API yet, or there's a function missing, to putting your own together.
Well, I don't think it's going to replace the custom functions. It's going to enhance the custom functions because we need both. And then my thoughts also were that, we can get the connector to work with Claris Studio, then that would be a great way to say, okay, now I can only do so much right now, but maybe I can put a connector in there. I don't know if we can yet, but at some point be able to say, now I've got a workflow. Somebody fired off form, you would fire off a connector once you got that in that would send back the reply or something. Would be awesome.
One of the things that Angela Cates mentioned in a recent video is that the Claris Connect platform may or may not get installed when you install your local version of FileMaker server.
Right.
So just like the data API, you're
Right.
also going to have the option to work with Claris Connect.
Correct.
And that's another good way of looking at things too.
Yeah, and I think at FMDisc, Clay was sort of talking about that being absorbed right into the FileMaker platform in a way that it's not really a separate product, it's just an enhancement.
Wait, you're not talking about the topic before 5:30, are you?
So what?
He wants this to be in the recorded part of the meeting.
Well, it's recorded
It's all
anyway,
being
but
recorded.
That's all recorded.
I guess most people will be anticipating that our discussion of that at 5:30 if there's
They
any other
can,
people coming.
Eric, they can reference the awesome timestamp links that are implemented post-production.
Sometimes, yeah. I guess I have to do this one.
So, and just out of curiosity, Tony, can you explain to me how that FileMaker Can Do That video got 40,000 views?
Which one?
Um,
The YouTube that Tony shared.
yeah, I'll have to post it again for the newcomers. People might
Because he keeps
remember this.
posting it.
What's that?
He keeps sharing it.
6 years
No,
ago.
I posted it once. I mean, I don't new people who jump on the call on this Zoom or whatever.
Which one is it? The
It's the one.
FileMaker Can Do That.
Don't make me play it. I'm gonna play it. Don't make me play it.
Once everything's perfectly organized.
I get a commercial. Oh, the FileMaker Can Do That. Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, you could. Why don't you play like a few seconds just so people can have a taste of how?
Wow.
Not the whole thing, although it's pretty short.
Just the sound of it, or?
Yeah, just the sound. Whatever. If you know how to show
I
video.
have to get past this ad here.
Yeah. There's a few seconds.
Okay.
We need to track our stuff. When we're
Can you hear?
rough,
Yeah.
business will fall flat. FileMaker.
It land down a beat.
Carmen, we have trouble. We need a transfer on the double. I need to send 24 of this hat. FileMaker can do that.
Yeah, the ukulele.
So
There's a didgeridoo in there as well.
An employee came in late, and we have to set her straight.
That's good. But who did that?
that was it was a company that sells souvenir products, I believe, based out of Alaska.
But they did this on their own, or they're like their
This was
consultant did it?
entirely done. There was, at my understanding, unless it was
Hope
done,
they did
you know,
this on their own.
unless
Wow.
it was. What's that? What'd you say?
They did it on their own, not with a consultant.
Yeah, it was organic.
Huh.
And
Wow.
therefore has high authenticity. It got Brad Freitag, for
And
example.
it's got more views than we have in the whole of DIGFM channel.
Well, yeah, and then
One clip.
I
Like,
just added
But
one.
it's got a lot of comments too. As you keep scrolling, it just keeps going.
Clearly, we need a
Yeah.
meeting that involves a singing presentation of the platform.
No.
Let's call Jerry Robin. We'll get Jerry to sing a few something.
Does he sing?
Oh, I believe so. He used to do improv, so he'll do anything.
Yeah.
He'll do anything. Awesome.
Didgeridoo. All right, I'll have to watch this later.
So I was just barely starting to try and catch up on the DIGFM that I missed over the summer. So the Jewel with Matt and the event with Charles last month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Charles' thing was like, it looks like the recording went on for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Was it trying to like set a record or?
Yeah, we're trying to
No,
outdo Keith.
we're not going to beat Keith.
No, Keith is long-standing
record.
champion.
We're not trying to beat that one. But
And I just warn you, I warn you advance, this meeting is going to be short.
well, and so that meeting, if you saw where it got cut off, it was still going after I cut it off. So
I was on the live one for Keith. But so how was it with Charles?
yeah, it was good. I mean, the
Yes.
people hung on and listened to the AI talk. That's because yeah, he's been experimenting a lot with ChatGPT also, and so he riffed on that for a while.
I see.
I did something recently with ChatGPT. Where was it?
What's that thing about if you hold a conversation long enough, it kind of all comes around to like World War II or something like that, or Nazis. And now it's always going to come around to ChatGPT.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Anyway, it's just so much, so much everybody's been talking about it, but especially that thing that I think it was it Johan in .fmp who did the presentation. I can't remember Joris or Johan, but anyway, one of them gave this talk about ChatGPT at .fmp in Berlin, and it's was also mentioned in the DIGFM, no, the FMDisc meeting last week.
Right.
How Ian mentioned it, how it was something about, a function to get the window, like if it's a card window or something like that. And it came up with, very convincing answers of these 5, I think 4 or 5 modes for the window if you ask for this get window type. And when you actually looked at it, it was like, well, wait a minute, that window mode doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
Like, you just made it all up. It's just like, wow.
Well, the thing with ChatGPT is it is pretty much designed to keep the conversation going, just keep saying stuff. So it doesn't mean that it's gonna say stuff that makes sense, but it's really gonna output something. I gotta output something. Oh, in there.
But it
got
might
Let's
make
output
sense
this.
if somebody doesn't know that it's wrong.
It's
And
coherent.
that's a problem.
Yeah, it's coherent, but it's not true.
It's a really good liar.
Yeah. And not only that, it's not only a really good liar, it's a really polite liar too.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What I meant was,
what was it? Of course, I'd be happy to help you optimize your FileMaker script. To get started, please provide me with the details of your script, including what it currently does and any specific performance or functionality improvements you'd like to achieve. The more information you provide, the better I can assist you in optimizing your script.
optimizing yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I fed it a script, and then so I fed it a script. And the first thing it did in my script, it says freeze window, go to layout, it's in a single pass loop, and then freeze window, go to layout, new record request. And then, there's a whole bunch of other stuff. But anyway, it comes back and it says, to optimize the FileMaker script you provided, we can make several improvements. I'll go through each section of the script and suggest changes. First, freeze window. The command is used to prevent the window from update. I have freeze window. What are you telling me? Like, I already have it.
Yeah.
It's I mean, for entertainment value, that's what I do these days. Anyway.
Yeah, I think the ChatGPT as far as I can tell, because I've been to a bunch of these presentations, it seems based on the fact that it's relying on input, which is arguably going to be imperfect and can be, intentionally imperfect. It's the classic. It falls victim to the garbage in, garbage out. The only thing that I would contemplate using ChatGTP for would be just to get kind of a boilerplate starting point, or get things that are unambiguously informational. Like, give me a list of all the, corporations within a given jurisdiction or something like that. But unfortunately, it just doesn't seem to be there yet.
Well, I think that like their code base for PHP and JavaScript are probably more robust because they've been around longer. There's more of an audience that are asking those questions, that it's probably more accurate kind of thing. Whereas with FileMaker, we all know it has 10 different ways to do the same thing, and it may not quite know what to make of that, if you will, for what code they do have. And we know that they had a cutoff point, so new stuff isn't even going to be in there. So I'm a little, leery of working with it just for those reasons.
I think, Bev, you actually make a good point about there are some languages where it seems like it would add value. I think for FileMaker, because it's not text-based, it's much more problematic. So that limits you to, calculations, let's say, or maybe just say custom functions to pick one. And then maybe it's an interesting thought, what is the difference in quality between a ChatGTP robotically generated answer to a custom function or a curated, vetted by the community? Because I think that just these 8 people that we have on the call, or 80, can't count, the could kick ChatGTP chips off the table if we put our heads together on what's the best way to do this custom function. We would crush it.
Yeah.
Humans for the win.
Yeah. But like I say, the problem is if new people think that they're going to get an answer and don't, then what they get, they come to the community and say, this is what ChatGPT told me, and we go, well, it's wrong. I don't want to see somebody new using that as, well, it solves my problem. And you go, no, it doesn't.
And it's arrogantly wrong, like Vince was saying. Not only it's being wrong is one thing, but being wrong with great confidence is really worse.
Yes, but does GPT follow Asimov's laws of robotics?
Do you know how?
I got to look that up.
Is Asimov or
guy?
Wasn't there a Turing test too? But you're not referring to the Turing test.
No. Referring to basically, you shall not hurt humans or allow harm to come to humans, etc. But it's a wonderful opportunity for maliciousness, because certainly I could just see somebody planning something in there that basically create a subscript, perform with full access privilege, show all records, delete all records, or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Supposedly, it's got what is it? A directive that loads before you can and it loads ahead of what you're loading it, what you're sending it. So it's always got this directive, and at least this is the way my friend Jeff explained it to me, because he was reading up about it. And people have tried to get it to reveal its directive, or like in Wall-E, the prime directive or whatever.
Why are you telling me this?
Why? Yeah, like to alter its behavior, the way it responds. Can you respond in a mean tone to me or whatever?
Yeah. Well, yeah, you could say, like, if I were so and so, how would I write this, right? And it would would go out and find the style of that person, or maybe even the kind of content that they would have, or the political or worldview bent that they have, and then they would incorporate that into the response instead of giving you the standard response.
Uh-huh.
We've got a client that her manager told her that her email messages out to all staff needed to be more flowery. And so she put the email into ChatGPT and said, please make this email more flowery. And it did.
Oh, wow.
And then we told it to make the email as if it came from Donald Trump.
Mm.
It did. It sounded like Donald Trump.
Wow.
It was awesome. It was the greatest.
So we got 2 minutes before the official meeting starts, and Vince starts talking.
3 minutes.
Oh, and I don't know about Vince. Who's talking? Who's actually
No,
leading
that's
the
2
way?
minutes.
And I guess we're gonna bring up the main topic, and then another topic. I guess Vince is gonna lead the way on both of them. Is that right?
Sure.
And then yeah, whatever else you guys want to talk about as well. Also, if you're prepared to talk, make sure, yeah, you don't have to be on mute, but if you're gonna potentially be having any domestic disputes or anything like that, we don't want that in the background, so keep yourself on mute.
Dog barking.
Oh, hey, I got a dog.
So do I. And he was serenading something this morning.
Yeah, just be
playing
prepared to use your mute button appropriately.
Steve is not with us tonight.
No, he had to take care of some stuff. Family. But he'll be back probably next month. So yeah, he kind of just left us alone with our recording turned on, and
he trusted us.
all uncensored.
All right.
Unmoderated.
Tom, welcome. I didn't say hello, but welcome. And James as well. Okay, Eric, do you need like quietness? What do you need?
I'm probably going to start it somewhere that earlier than this anyway. So.
All right, so here we go.
Everybody's suffering.
Okay, so tonight we're going to cover 2 topics. One topic is kind of discuss as amongst us here some of the implications and the changes of the Claris announcement about the roadmap update. And then we'll post some links for y'all to listen to some of those recordings. There was a recording by Andy Cates. I think that one was already posted at the beginning. And then there was a FileMaker FMDisc meeting from last week that happened, and that recording is also up on YouTube. We should post that as well. That one was a really good one. If you're gonna listen to anything regarding some of the roadmap discussion, Rick, Kalman, Clay, and Wade, and there was one other engineer from Claris, I don't remember his name, who were discussing, some of the roadmap stuff, some of the future stuff, and that's definitely worth listening to. And before that meeting, Ian from, what's Ian's last name? Does anybody remember?
Jensen.
Jensen. He did give a little bit of a recap of AI and discussed what's been going on in that field. So it was really great to hear him because he also spoke at .fnp in June of this year. So anyway, yeah, the FMDisc meeting was a really good one. I also listened to the meeting that Richard Carlton did with having Giuliano and Rick on that meeting where they had kind of like they were taking live questions, and if we can find that link as well, then we'll post it. Yeah, so a little bit impromptu meeting tonight. Just open to discussing, any thoughts or reactions to the roadmap that happened. Feel free to put yourself on camera, unmute yourself, and share your ideas or thoughts or opinions, points of view.
Hey, Vince, this is Jim Branham. I haven't caught up with all of the videos yet, but did the product announcement or the roadmap announcement cover their plans for government customers? I know that during the previous Claris events, I did ask the question for the offering on the GovCloud because of the great restrictions that we have as government customers. And they said that was on the plan sometime down the road. I was wondering if that was any part of the roadmap discussion.
In all the meetings that I listened to, Jim, I had not heard anything mentioned along those lines. Yeah. I mean, the main thing, if you haven't listened to it, is a little bit of a spoiler, but it's not like a drama, so it's not a big deal. But the main thing from what I got is that they course corrected a little bit. And, originally they were doing these two branches where you're, there was a branch that was just called Claris Pro, Claris Server, et cetera, right? And then there was FileMaker, and to connect Claris, to connect to Claris Studio, you had to use Claris Pro to connect to it, et cetera. And so that caused a lot of confusion, and they basically scrapped that and said, it's all just going to be FileMaker, and eventually FileMaker will connect to Claris Studio, and eventually everything will just be FileMaker. Claris Connect will fold into FileMaker somehow, in some way, so you'll have the extendability from Claris Connect be in there in some capacity.
Microsoft Access will be folded in.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
I gotta mute this guy here. Troublemaker. So yeah, it'll be all one platform. So, but if you listen to the FMDisc meeting, there was one comment I think Rick made or Clay made, where he said, yeah, well, at some point, you're going to have, like, especially when they were discussing, like, oh, you need to improve the UI, add, new user experience capabilities, etc., because that area is being lost on us. And a comment that was made was, you're going to see some new UI things, but they're going to come from Studio, and eventually Studio will be in there in some form or capacity. It's like, wow, what an interesting concept! Like, some new widgets or tools that Studio has been worked on are going to show up in FileMaker. And if you've used Claris Studio and you use FileMaker, it's like two very different things. So I don't know how they're gonna resolve that. Anyway, so that's so it's all just going to be FileMaker, and at least for the foreseeable future. And they're making big investments. They're like, if you listen to again, we've seen as a community the agile development process in full swing, and we've gotten transactions, and we've got on window transaction auditing, so any changes you can trigger some action to happen based on that. Mostly auditing, but it could be anything. And those are two major things. Like I never thought we would see transactions at this point, and we have transactions and auditing. Anyway, the agile process workflow is in full swing, and can't wait to see what's going to come next. But they're really working hard.
Yeah, I wanted to jump in. The merging back so that we have FileMaker Pro, FileMaker Go, FileMaker Server, Claris Connect, and Claris Studio, along with the WebDirect and whatever we have now. The question had come up on several of the discussions that I attended was, well, what about the people that have that Claris Pro and created things that have the .claris extension, and they will come up with a tool to convert that back to have the .fmp12. So they're not permanently stuck in that position if you need to bring those back in.
That's right. Thanks, Bev.
Is anything like what happened with Bento?
Why? What happened to Bento?
Oh,
In what way?
well, I mean, there are some people who started developing and putting things on Bento, and then they did they have a path to go back to FileMaker? I don't know. I never used Bento.
Well, I don't think there ever was a way to springboard from FileMaker to Bento. I think you had to build in Bento.
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
Is that if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
So,
that's correct. And they had for a long time that tool that you could use to convert your Bento to FileMaker. And then when it phased out, there was a period where they didn't really update the tool, but for a long time you could contact Claris support and they had the tool to be able to convert Bento to FileMaker for you. So, and they may still do that.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Another area of compatibility that I hope they address is one thing that one of my major customers has been grappling with, and that is how to make the jump from FileMaker 18 to 23. And right now, they're reluctant to set up all new servers, and the technology differences and concerns about compatibility. There's about 150, 200 databases they have to clear. So it looks like we'll probably be stopping at 19.6.3 as a server, because that's both compatible with 18 and the 23, and then sort of doing it in two steps. But definitely there's a lot of things we've experienced in version migrations in the past. So the process of merging some of these technologies from the Claris Pro and things of that nature also raised that concern even greater on what its impact is going to be on compatibility, because definitely the customer has been very reluctant to make bigger jumps, even to get them to earlier versions of 19 that we're already licensed for, just because so many things have broken in the past. So we're not ready to just sort of slam things over. But that will be of increasing concern going forward for those of us who haven't yet quite grappled with even the later versions of 19.
And we're in a similar situation. We have a server that's in 18, but we have several clients that are like all over the place. But yeah, in preparation to move to the FileMaker 20, we've gotten everybody up to 19.6. That way they can use either server as we transition things over.
I mean, what you're saying, Jim, is that it makes it harder if they're in this agile process where they continue iterating, and you it can't keep pace with the changes that they're making?
Well, what it does in part is it creates reluctance on the part of the customer to take their older databases, many of which were designed in like 7, 12, successively migrated. And one of the things two things have universally broken. One is external container storage, and number two is WebDirect, and especially things relating to supported themes and the like. So we've always had to basically set up new servers and test usually the databases for a given work group, because there's quite a few work groups that this particular customer mine has that have functional requirements. So what we try to do is work out a strategy for all of the solutions that were developed for that work group, check them out on the newer version, make what necessary corrections, and then put that up on the production server of the new version, and then migrate those clients over. But just the fact that you have technology changes and things to check, and the greater the disparity grows, the more at least perceived threat, if not actual threat, there is to having to spend a lot of time and effort to fix things that break just because the potential exists. But it does take time just to even to check it out. So say they're definitely reluctant, this customer, to go to the new licensing. And as pointed out here, going to 1963 offers a very good way for the server of bridging between the 18 customers and the 20 customers, because that is the common spot that is compatible between the two. And then you can migrate more easily by just migrating the clients eventually to 19.6, and then because it can still connect to the old 18 servers. Many of these folks have to talk to the old servers and new servers, even though most of their stuff is within their work group. There's still some things in common as well. So I think that strategy makes a lot of sense, and that's what I've been recommending if I can get them to make the move here with me.
But even the move to 18 WebDirect still needed some changes to the theme. So were those done, or are those not done yet?
Those had to be done. That was part of the thing that broke when we went from 16, many say 12, 13 to
Right.
16.
Right.
Yeah, but everything
Right.
had to be touched is the bottom line. And just thinking about it psychologically, the fact that there's some great technology changes ahead in terms of back merging some features raises that anxiety level even greater.
Gotcha. Yeah, the change from what they had, the instant web publishing, which required the classic theme, to WebDirect, which cannot use the classic theme, was quite a leap. But once you've made that leap to that version that uses WebDirect, and you've changed those themes to work correctly with WebDirect, any jump forward, there's going to be no change. So I'm not, if you haven't made the switch yet in the theme, then you should have problems now, regardless of jumping to the future. So I'm not sure where the threat is or fear.
It's the unknown. They just haven't been checked out to work, and we did have to change things before. But I'm just more or less introducing something that's important. I do remember when the jump from 7 or to 7 from 6 was a biggie. There were some tools that you could actually run to evaluate your existing databases, and it would make recommendations on fixes. So that would be another area that might be helpful to, let's say, deal with some of these anxieties, is have a compatibility evaluation tool, make your punch list up, certainly us, in pitching it to our customers to say, okay, here's what I think I'm going to have to do and this is about how much I think it's going to cost, because these big uncertainties, it's a hard sell.
Yeah. Hey, let me jump in. Certainly the 6 to 7, that was the big one that I remember. The 11 to 12, and these are like file format changes, was pretty mellow, trivial almost. Picking up on what Beverly was saying, there was, in terms of the WebDirect, I'm aware of what Beverly pointed out about the needing to get off Classic in order to get onto WebDirect. I'm not aware of any, major issues. That said, the idea of the unknown is obviously a factor, and I guess the answer to that would be, to the extent that the community identifies, what any given transition is, what little gotchas there might be. I don't think there's major gotchas as you move versions forward, but the more that they're identified, the better for all. My 2 cents.
To jump in, FileMaker is moving forward. This discussion opened up on how the roadmap fits in with the change away from saying that from FileMaker through to the Claris platform was going to be a complete file format change, and there was no going back. The recent announcement has said that now we're at a stage where our FileMaker platform is going to continue to live, and we're going to have an extra tool added. We've had the Claris Connect added, and now we're going to have the Claris Studio as a product to add to where we're going. Being in this agile world, we've been talking about FileMaker 18, and FileMaker 18 was end of life, according to Claris, in June 2021, so over 2 years ago. The FileMaker 19.3 platform was end of life in July this year. So we're given a 2-year window from a release to embrace the change, embrace the update, do the due diligence on an existing system, run up some dev servers, test the functionality, and keep it moving forward. I've just completed a 19.3.2 upgrade to the FileMaker 2023 platform, so that the customer is now covered by Claris support, and we jumped 19.4, 19.5, and 19.6 and went to FileMaker 2023. Now, we have done these type of updates every odd number. We didn't do 18, we didn't do 16, and we didn't do 14, but we started this whole process at 13. The odd numbers were our lucky numbers. That's a little bit of a rubber chicken, but it's the way we did the work. But we still had a planned progression to do an upgrade every 2 years. And I think that just needs to be embraced. And it does take work. And it does mean a dev server, and it does get buy-in from users to find out the different functions. But now we have all those brand new functions, like Vince mentioned, of the transactions, the audit logs, much more robust search engine. The server itself is a lot more stable. Yes, we have a few WebDirect issues that we need to iron out at the moment, but in general, our platform is moving forward, and we need to move forward with it. Vince, you're muted, mate.
Thank you. Thanks, Darrin. I just said thanks for that. And I think on some level, with AI and all the stuff that's going on there, it's going to be an interesting journey to see how how AI might have some effect on, what we end up doing as developers. again, there's this all this stuff like Copilot and all that, where from a coding perspective, ChatGPT is got a better knowledge pool. It's been better trained. So it'll be interesting to see how things evolve in that space. And especially seeing as with the assistance of AI, if you're writing code and you're actually, sorry, if you're in a low code platform, like you don't know what you're really doing, but you're dabbling and you're kind of getting through it. You can dabble a lot more even in professional programming platforms with AI, because you could say, hey, I'd like to do this loop, but I don't know how to write it. Can you write it for me? And you start hobbling together the pieces. So anyway, Ian mentioned this in the meeting, and it's kind of like it raises the question or a concern, like, oh, what's going to happen to low code platforms? Not that FileMaker is necessarily only a low code platform. It's a pro code platform in a sense, or medium code platform. Again, reiterating what Brad said maybe over a year ago now or more, that without the developer community, the platform doesn't do much, so it's us that bring the value to the platform. So anyway, it's just interesting food for thought on how that's going to evolve.
Vaughn here.
Yep.
Question about migration. So I have a client that is on FileMaker 16, and they've been there for a number of years. They've got about 4 users. They have 16 server on premises. Now they want to move to the latest and cloud-based. Is the latest 2023, and can we go from 16 to 2023 without major problems?
2023 FileMaker Cloud is already currently running. There are probably hosting companies that are using that as well. If you want to use one of them,
we do.
And the discussion just a little bit ago was about WebDirect is the one that if you're using WebDirect, it has to do with themes. And if you were previously using what they call instant web publishing, the themes are not going to work for WebDirect. And that probably was the biggest issue that I found. And I had a client that did that. We started out in instant web publishing. And, we had to go through the layers and make sure that they were compatible for WebDirect. But that's the biggest issue. Otherwise, I've not found anything really major in any upgrades. I have a client currently on 15, and I gave them an ultimatum. They've got to get to 2023. I can't, my hardware is upgraded to the point where I can't go back. And they don't use any WebDirect. It's all in FileMaker. And so just knowing what was built, I know that they're not going to have any problems.
Okay, thank you.
Forward.
That won't be an issue for us because we don't have anything in IWP or WebDirect. So
right, yeah.
Regarding the hardware, which you mentioned, some of their hardware is old. My sort of understanding is that once you get on 2023 and you're cloud-based, you don't have to have a FileMaker. You don't have to have a FileMaker client, or you don't have to be using an Apple product. You can access it from. You can access it on the web from any kind of browser. Is that accurate?
You can still use the FileMaker Pro client, and so that would be OS based. That's what I'm talking about. For my client, when I upgraded my OS, I couldn't go backward to the older versions of FileMaker. So you can have the Pro client, you can have the Go client, and the WebDirect is a way to not have a client that is just all browser based. and you can do that from any of the servers, cloud or regular server.
But I would have to build those layouts, the WebDirect layouts.
If they're not terribly complex, are probably going to work as is. But when I designed, I tried to make them as lean and mean as, just do the task. It doesn't quite need as much complexity for the WebDirect as it did for, say, the client server version of it, or Go, if that would be something that you're going to use on the iPad or iPhone. Those layouts need to be sort of sized to fit a little better, and so of course they're not going to be as complex. But so the possibility you would have to redesign layouts, but most of what I've worked on, it just goes over. You don't want to have anything that's layered, like you don't want to have a button that's on top of a text on top of something else, because it doesn't work quite right. But everything else seems to just port right over. So
well, we would probably be using Go out in the field, and those, on an iPad, they would be a lot simpler, because they're just checking in, or they're updating, looking at maps, that type of thing like that.
Well, so you can have a combination where as developers, you have copies of the Pro where you're designing it, and you can design it to be hosted with the cloud, but they can open it with their iPad and be just fine.
Okay, thank you.
Because that's using FileMaker Go, which is a downloadable product.
Yvonne, in terms of compatibility moving forward, we've done it with a bunch of people, often with older hardware that they've kind of squeezed some extra life out of. It's and I'm just talking general terms here, maybe. If you're doing the client server thing, then you have to look at the compatibility between the server product and the desktop product, which used to be, I think you mentioned 16, so I'm going to use it as an example, a delta of 2. So we actually just moved a couple customers in the past couple of years from 14 server to an 18 server. And the intermediate step was to move all their clients' software, and their FMPs, if you will, to 16, because it's 14 to 16 is delta of 2. And we were able to go server 14 to 18. And we went to 18 instead of something more because we could, because it was like one step at a time, and we didn't have to kind of upgrade 50 desktops that are scattered between the office and remote locations, which was beyond the inclination of the IT team. So there's the delta between the FileMaker Pro and the server. And then the other thing to look at is the operating system. In other words, a given piece of hardware, and it's often, a given piece of hardware is going to support a given OS, which is going to support a given of FileMaker. So you do have sometime hardware just can't run the operating system that you need to run the FileMaker version that you need to complete a stack. And just one other. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, one other thought, just to put a bow on it, is the other thing, and this is Beverly was filling in, is that there's a fork in the road early in the decision process whether you're going to implement what I'll call a client server architecture, where you have FileMaker client, whether it's FMP or FMG, or on the other hand, if you're tired of fighting FileMaker Pro Desktop, and you're just going to go with a web browser, WebDirect kind of thing, and that takes you down a completely different road.
Okay, so did you recommend going from 16 to 18? And did somebody say that 18 is not officially supported?
I'm not making any recommendations. I was just telling a story, the historical story about moving forward, some of the decisions that may or may not come up. These are the same decisions that come up whether you're moving from 12 to 14. There's actually two kinds of move forwards. There's file format changes, and those have to be done super duper careful. And then there's, you know, historically, we've moved people from 12 to 14, 14 to 16, 16 to 18, up to 19, and so forth. The same issues come up each and every single time.
So I did attend one of the seminars for the roadmap, and my understanding was, as Ben said earlier, that they're going to be bringing Claris Pro back into the fold. So is 2023, Beverly was saying that some of the host services have that. Is 2023 available now, and is it a different format than FMP 12?
No, it's the same format as FMP12. It's the newest version of FileMaker. The Claris Pro that they had out was not even updated to that version. The functionality in it was never brought up to that point that we have now. But it is still FMP12 extension. So what you have now will directly port over to that.
Okay, I think I have one last question, and that is FMP 20 the same as FMP 23?
It's it's named FileMaker 2023, but if you look at the about, you know, it'll tell you a version number. It'll be 20 dot and something.
Okay.
Whereas on the dot Claris, when you would open it up, it would say 40 dot something.
Okay.
So that is a different file format, and as we said, that they have now decided to merge everything back in. If you happen to have made something that's .claris, they're going to have a tool that will be able to change those back to be .fmp12, allow you all of what you have in FMP12 for version 19 or 20.
Okay,
or the
thank
2023.
Thank you for your input. No, we didn't get off into Claris Studio, and yes. So it sounds like that my original idea of just going with one of the hosting services and moving directly to 2023.
Yeah, and then you don't have to do the server setup and stuff like that, but you would still need to have the clients as a developer. You probably want to do 2023 or 19.6 at least to do any kind of developing and monitoring and stuff like that. The Go clients are already going to be 2023 if it's downloaded. That's already out there. You know, WebDirect is already built into it, so that's not anything that you personally need to have a different platform to view. It works just fine in Windows and Macintosh browsers, and but the Go is only for the iOS products.
So just agreeing with what Beverly said, and she's kind of bringing it up to your current situation, which is great. So the only gotcha that you'd want to make sure you don't embarrass yourself with is if you do go to the 2023 20 under the hood, just make sure that the hardware that people are expecting to run 20 or 19.6.3, I think, is the one that's compatible, kind of the bridge where you can be off by a delta of 1. Just make sure that you don't discover at the last possible minute that you've got an older machine that can't take you there.
Thank you for that advice. I've already discussed with the client that if we're doing this as our forever project. And I've already advised them that whatever it costs to upgrade to the latest hardware, that's going to be cost part of the price.
Okay, so it won't be a surprise.
No. And there's not that many, half a dozen. Well,
right. It's and then the other computers can be pass-alongs and do something, and a lot of times the Mac hardware has remarkably long life. You just have to check how far it can go with the operating system.
Yes.
Good luck. Good luck with what you're doing.
Thank you.
Any other comments about the roadmap? Okay. I'm going to share my screen and show you a couple things that I discovered well, this was actually a long time ago, but I'll share this again. But it dovetails into another thing that I've been spending time with. So let me share my screen. Okay, so you should all be able to see that. Oops, sorry. Okay, so everybody see this window? This FileMaker window?
Kind of
Yes.
tiny.
Yeah.
Make your window bigger.
Make it bigger. All right. Where is it? View. Zoom in. Okay. There we go. Is that big enough? Okay, I've got one.
It says red.
What's your
Yeah.
screen resolution?
Oh, and whatever the maximum is. I have a Apple Cinema display,
Oh,
I think. And so it's like really big. Apologize. I should have checked the size. Should I make it smaller?
oh
To
yeah.
make a resolution?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
yeah, it's good for
Okay.
1080.
Yeah. Okay. So this one here. Is that better?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So everybody knows, like, FileMaker, you drop a field on a layout that's got a label so that the field name is red. Let me change it to blue. Right. So what do you expect the label to do? What do you expect this?
Date
What is this going to happen?
I'm expecting it to change to blue.
to update.
Yeah. Oh, there it is, right? Blue. Now, it turns out that I wrote a blog post a number of years ago about this phenomenon. And I don't know if some of you might have read it, but it turns out that actually there's a force field around this object. And so so if I have the text over here or over here, right? So let me just balance these out a little bit. Okay. So and I go in and I change my color back to red. Both of them change, one on the other side. It's not like just because this text object was placed here, it belongs to this field, it knows it's on the left. As a matter of fact, I could even do this, right? And so now I have a bunch of them, right? Go back in, blue, change, they all change, right? So that's kind of interesting.
It
However,
is. It is. And scary.
However, yeah, it's scary. It's scary. Obviously, if you're a designer, you don't want anybody messing with your design. Like what if you make a color that's really big, like a really long word, and you've got the text and it's supposed to be just fitting right in a certain space. It just messes things up.
Is that behavior tied to when you put the field on the layout, you're assigning the text label to it? If you just manually did it, then it wouldn't be tagged to it. So
No,
It's a force field.
it's a force field. So
even if you manually
There you go.
the label.
Look at
there you
that.
go. Yeah. So the force field is around the field, and I mean I don't know, I haven't checked it if it's just a tiny square field, if it's a elliptical, but I remember Keith mentioned this to me, and there's kind of like a kind of almost like when they accelerate neutrons or protons.
So it's a solenoid shaped force
Yeah,
field, I think.
exactly. So anyway, yeah. So what was the comment that I put? Like I just copied these text objects. I could do the same, and I could just type an object, and I could call it.
I think the comment was that if you start editing one,
Yeah.
it's gonna break the link.
Okay.
Actually, what I was saying is when you place a field on the layout, it gives you the option to also attach a label to it. If you uncheck that and then you manually create the label with the text tool, will it also change? I don't think so because there's no obvious link to it.
Right.
Okay, well, let's try this. Where is that? Here, this one here, right? So if I want labels, it's already checked. If I don't want labels, I go like this, right? So now I don't want labels. I just drag my field on. Now let me put a text object right here. Call it orange. I'll put it.
Okay. Anyone want to place any wagers before he changes it?
No, it's not good. It's not going to change.
It's not going to.
We've got, that's a bold assertion there. Let's see. Survey says.
Because I've done it.
Oh, look at
I'm
that.
sorry, Eric, what was that you were saying?
It didn't change.
It's a force field. It's a force field.
Making sure right there.
It's a force field.
Hey, Vince.
Yeah.
What if the field exists on a different layout?
No, wait.
Probably the same effect.
I just proved it, right? I changed it when I was on this layout.
Wow.
And I changed it over here, right?
This is actually a very important presentation.
Okay.
It is.
Okay, now if you take one of those blue labels and stick it inside the force field, does it change then?
No, because it's not the same name as the field. But if I had this object and it was called purple, and then I move it inside the force field and change this back to red, it will change because it's inside the force field.
So it's no, so it's no hard association drawn. It's
just
looking for the similar name.
Hey, my name is red. Do I have any reds around me? Yeah, I do. Okay, so change them.
It has to be exact. It can't be like part of a name or something like that, right?
Yeah, no, it has to be exact. I mean,
is it case sensitive?
It has to be
case sensitive. Is it case sensitive?
Yeah, well, let's try it. Okay, right on.
It's trivia.
This is going to be the definitive presentation on this topic.
Yeah.
Is it going to change? Yes or no?
I predict yes.
I predict yeah.
I stopped predicting no.
Okay.
No. It did not change, so it is case sensitive.
Something case sensitive in FileMaker. Wow.
Has to be. Yeah.
Exactly.
There you go. So I hope I taught you something new today that you did not know.
So Vince, we were actually discussing this, and I can tell you my proposal, and maybe I can build some support for it. Because of this phenomenon that you've demonstrated, and I saw this one day when I named a field delete, and I had a button label called delete, and I renamed delete to something else, and it destroyed a button, which is interesting because it was sort of outside the force field. Maybe my computer has like a bigger force field or something.
Yeah, I think so. The Intel machines, they have a wider.
Maybe it was a voltage spike. But so my proposed solution was that field names always have a suffix, which, naming conventions are always radical. Everybody's going to argue about it. But if your field was called delete _n for number, or whatever the heck you wanted to call it, and your label would not have a suffix, you would then fields and the similarity between fields and field labels would be broken from the outset. And this entire danger, because this is really dangerous.
Yeah, I agree. Like just what I showed you before, which is, let's say your designer has designed it a very specific way, and then you go and you change the name of your field because you localized it in French, God forbid.
Right. And let's say you had field names like active.
Yeah.
And delete, or, you can locked or whatever.
Yeah.
And those are all strings that would appear in the user interface. So since we're being recorded, anyway, just a suffix. And that reveals some metadata and problem solved.
Yeah. So, okay, well,
of course, now, for a while, some of us have wanted there to be an explicit label. In the definition, where you'd have the field name, you'd have a label, and of course the comments, right, that are down there.
That would be even better.
Yeah.
I vote for that as well.
So that's the one thing I wanted to show you. Have we exhausted this topic anymore? Now that we know it's case sensitive, there's a field, there's a force field around a field.
Yeah.
Of indeterminate intensity.
Of indeterminate strength, yeah.
Does this work on multiple layers? In other words, if you have a stack of some sort, using visibility control, because I am using visibility control usually with some exclusive OR relationships to use some of the different buttons that graphics you can attach, which make good status indicators, like whether a person is logged into a database or now. So the question would be whether or not this force field works on multiple layers.
You mean if I had an object in front of another object? Like if I had so if I had this object, the text object, and I send it to the back, and then I had my field object in front of it, it because it's in the force field, it's going to change it. So
in two dimensions there.
Yeah, well, 2 dimensions. Yeah, exactly. There's no Z dimension because it's all flat over here.
Of course, my other thought was like, well, what about tab controls and
So like
pop-ups and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, if the field is anywhere, like so, if the field is inside or out of room here, but if the field is inside here, and you've got some buttons, some text around it.
And what about like just outside of that tab control?
That's a good point. Yeah, maybe the field, the force field can't go beyond those boundaries. I don't know. That's a good question. So, like, if I put this over
right to the edge,
I think it would predate, and I would expect it to be just based on like X and Y positions type of thing.
Yeah, I agree. I think
so. If you're testing, hey Vince, what about locked? That would be kind of insulting if, like, you could lock the text label.
Yeah, we're really getting into the details here.
And then if
where's lock again? Sorry, I can't remember where lock is.
Under the arrange menu. Arrange.
This one?
Well, it's under the menu called arrange. It's also on the pretty.
Oh yeah, right. Okay.
You do have the lock icon.
It's in that palette about halfway down on the right.
Yeah.
Then you want to, if just so you're not exhausted by changing the field, do you want to group one just for see what the groupies do?
So hold on 1 second. You're asking me too many questions here.
Oh, I see. One's on other tabs even. Yeah.
Topic is too popular.
Okay, so one is on there. Should I lock the ones on B? I'll lock the ones on B, so they should not change. There's one behind here. There's one outside of here.
On C, just put some labels with no field.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. So here.
I wouldn't be surprised if the
C one
if the locked one were to change as well. And
all right.
Hey, let's do it.
Now,
all right, everyone got your bets down. Les joueurs sont faits.
All right. There we go. So purple everywhere, even outside. Yeah. Behind here, even behind here. Over here.
We might have affected them.
Oh, wait for it. Wait for it.
Go.
Oh,
everything.
Yeah.
It's
just more we're all learning.
So it's just
if you want to be a jerk, just change everybody's field names.
So if you change a field name, all you got to do is look at every single tab on every single layout. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
It's just
if you make a really huge name that goes beyond the size of the text, then it gets truncated or what?
I mean, if the I think we saw orange. What happened? We let's change it again.
Make it a huge name.
No, that's a good one because
something goes way beyond the bounds.
It depends on, there's a hidden flag that determines whether the field has the ability to auto size.
Oh yeah, there's a hidden flag.
Yeah, I looked at it. It's in the XML.
Expanded it.
Well, hold on. That's not a fair test because.
Why?
Well, in other words,
so even the lock one.
Even the lock one, the lock one's got changed too.
Okay,
Oh.
I guess that is a good test because you can see that, yeah, it auto expands. Vince, the feature that I identified a while ago is that if you have text on a layout and one of them was placed on the layout and not touched, and the other one was like manually resized, whether you made it bigger or smaller, whatever the heck you did with it, manually resized, at least in the version that was playing around a couple of years ago, the act of manually resizing it will flip one of the bytes in one of the XML flags and will preclude it. Thank you, by the way. I can see you're about to test it. It looks like if you took that and resized it in some way, shape, or form,
I did.
made it
I
even
resized
longer.
it a little bit. I'm
saying if you make it even bigger, I have a feeling that rather than auto expanding that you demonstrated a moment ago, rather than auto expanding, it will.
Is that good enough? Is that good enough?
I would do it the other way. I would. Well, actually, maybe that.
I changed the size
what
of
you
this
want.
field.
What you want is like a small string that you make bigger. If you just leave it native, it'll auto expand to expand, right?
So you mean make it smaller? What do you want?
But make the text in there small somehow. Like,
oh, I see.
Go from small to large rather than from large to small, because like maybe change the field back to purple per second.
Okay, yeah. Oh, I see what you're getting at. Okay.
It comes when you're developing on a Mac and you want it to look good on Windows. If you leave the fields as they are, they'll auto expand on Windows to accommodate the larger width parameters. But if you do that action that you just did will cause FileMaker to define a fixed width, and it will kill the auto expanding functionality. Give it a big long thing, long. Go for it. Awesome. All right, let's see if it works on the version that you're on.
Yeah.
Bingo. That's a beautiful test. So had you not done that, because we saw earlier that it does absolutely auto expand. So the act of flips the dirty flag. I looked at the XML, definitely does it. And that auto enter flag, or excuse me, the flag that determines the behavior you just saw is not exposed, as far as I know, to the user interface in any way, shape, or form, because it's a dirty flag that stays dirty. Anyway.
Okay. Vince, I think making this on steroids, and you don't need to test this, but if we were to create another table with another field with the same name and overlap the fields on the layout, then you have to say, hey, is it going to be dependent on the z-axis, for this?
Vince, did you expect a half-hour conversation on this?
No, not at all. But
honestly, this is very important.
This is a demo we save for the third hour.
Yeah, well, this one was an insult. This one here, the lock thing. Oh, what happened to my fields? Oh, that's interesting.
Oh, because they outsized. They outsized the tab control.
Oh,
they
where'd
got
they
pushed
go?
out, right?
Oh, they're over here. That's right. They got somehow they were resized to small because it's auto resizing. Because
they resized the tab control too.
No, the tab control was already that size.
Oh, okay.
So, but the fact that it changed locked items is really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The best part is what is it that you do? You go in and you want to change the conditional formatting on something that's locked. It lets you change it, and then you do all these changes, and then you get out and it says, "Sorry, that item is locked." It's like, why'd you let me do it in the first place?
So is this an immutable feature that won't change if I don't know if somebody's counting on it? I don't know. Or
oh yeah, I don't know. Anyway,
I think it is. Yeah, no, I don't see this high on FileMaker's roadmap in terms of things that they should focus on. I think it's going to be up to us.
Well, the question is whether or not they focus on not changing it, right? Like somewhere down the road, they change how something works.
Okay, so this dovetails into the next.
Is this part of the 2/3 or 1/3 that you agree on with the SC?
Oh, you mean with Clay? Yeah, no, so having
Just
conversations.
joking.
This is a feature that they implemented to make it simple for people, whereby when they change it. So and that's good. You know, that's the low code. But what Vince has demonstrated here is that this is a perilous feature. This is a feature that could, and I did it myself. You know, I'm not a rookie here, and I had a field called delete. I renamed it, and then it didn't destroy. I mean, life went on, but it renamed one of my freaking buttons. And so the people should be vigilant. I'm gonna tweet on this, let the whole world know what we've seen here today.
Your button had the field.
But you had a text field that you turned into a button. It wasn't like one of the.
I had a button that in some way, shape, or form incorporated the word delete.
But didn't it was a text field that you turned into a button? That it wasn't a button that you.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I'd have to check.
It wasn't like a button you picked out of the.
I think Vince has done enough testing. I think we can't ask him to do more.
Okay, so I want to move on to the other topic because it dovetails from this one, and we can continue discussing. I think. Thank you for indulging me and getting me to try different things, and I learned some cool things about it. So, all right. So here's another example. Here's a file. Here's a field on a layout. I love doing these really simple, small, stupid examples.
Did your resolution change again?
Oh yeah, right. No, my resolution did not change. I have to zoom in a couple of times. There we go. Okay, so I have this field on the layout. Let me just move this smaller here. All right, so everybody.
Command plus on a Mac also zooms if you're not in a field.
What's that?
Command plus will also zoom if you are not in a field.
Oh, I see. Okay, thank you. So that field is on each of these layouts, right? Nothing up my sleeves. It's the same field on these layouts. So I want to, because for the last 2 years, I have been spending a lot of time looking at this stuff, the layout, the save as XML.
Yeah, your resolution makes that hard to read, though.
Yeah. Okay. So hold on. Let me. Okay. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. So in here, there's a layout catalog, and so for those of you who are familiar with this, the DDR, this is in a sense DDR 2.0. In a sense, it's not really, but it's kind of the newer version. And this is structured differently than the old one. There's a lot of things to talk about, but I'll just point out one thing. This has like these upper level things called catalogs, and the catalogs kind of keep a representation of, there's a layout catalog here. So let me go back up here. So at the top of the layout catalog, you'll see another element just below it, and it's a UUID. So everything is based on UUIDs. And so this layout catalog has a UUID. It's out here. And it also has these other attributes: modifications, the username, the account name, and the timestamp when the modification to that catalog happened. Okay, so because of every time so if you look here, there's 28 modifications. Okay, so if I go into here, I go into this layout, I just move the body part up a little bit. I go back to browse mode, and I go and I generate the save as XML, save it. Let me just look at it again. What was it? 28. Replace. Now it's 29. Right? Everybody see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's just telling us that in that catalog, something got changed in one of the layouts. So it's updating the catalog to say there was a modification in this catalog. So so in that layout, layout number 5, if we were to go, so this is layout number 1. So let me go back to layout number 1 to be easier because it's right here. So let me make that same change over here. Okay, and before I save it, because it's all the way down at the bottom here, there's an object. Here it is right here. Modifications is 6. So we have modifications to the catalog is 29, and we have 6 to the layout. Okay, so we're going to see a change to the catalog. We're also going to see a change to the layout modification count. So 6 goes to 7, and 29 goes to 30. All makes sense, right? Because I changed that layout, and I changed the that layout belongs in this catalog, so the catalog got also changed. All right. So with the legacy behavior that we just saw, which is the field, the force field around a field that changes things around it, there are other kind of implicit changes, or implicit changes that happen when you change things. So for example, so we're looking at this layout catalog, and I don't go into layout mode. I go into the schema and add something on here in the schema. I go and I generate the save as XML, and I added a note. Let me go back to where I was. Now it's 31. That's the layout catalog. Why did this change? Well, it changes because of the behavior that we just saw, which is if I change a field name, FileMaker is going to go through every single layout. And you know how, like, if you have a large solution and it says, what does that dialog come up again? It says updating.
Apply changes to every layout.
Apply, yeah. You can cancel it, right? So you say, don't bother going through all the 500 layouts and trying to find that field and updating its label, whatever. But the problem is that it's not really doing a good job. And the problem is that if you have this field in another file, it's not going to go bother looking at, oh, you have that field. Let me go look in the other file. Oh, it's on this layout. Let me update the label. It's not going to do it in the other files. So that part is not going to work. But okay, I have this field and I have it on all these layouts. What if I delete the field? Okay, I delete the blue field. Okay, so I delete blue. Blue is gone. Oh, wow, it did a good job. It cleaned up after itself. The field is gone. But look at that. It's still here on the second layout. Wait, what happened there? Well, but look at the third layout. Oh, it's gone. On the fourth layout, oh, it's still there, but it's a problem. On the fifth layout, it's gone. It's like, what is this? What kind of algorithm is it that's skipping over layouts or an offset of 1 in the loop or a
modularity function?
What. Yeah, it's so bizarre. And not only that, right? So we just had how many changes? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 changes, right? So that's 5 changes. So if we have 5 changes, 31 plus 5, that's 36. So if I save that, now we're at, where is it? 37. So it's actually gotten 6 layout catalog modification entries, which are probably not cheap to do. Each one of those is going to lock that catalog and going to save some changes. And I don't know if they do them in a transaction or whatever, but you can imagine that these locking of catalogs of in other places is probably not a good idea, especially in the cases where you want to have attribution. So so let's say I logged in as Bob, and Bob made this schema change, but then Bob shows up with layout changes. Bob never made layout changes. Why is he making layout changes? Right. So so anyway, just to show you that this is one of the topics I've been hammering and discussing with Clay about, and it's, you know, basically it's legacy behavior that's now surfacing and exposing itself in terms of what the underlying behavior is doing and how it's working, and it's not very consistent, and so maybe it should go away. That's my thinking. It shouldn't do that. So if you change the schema, it should just make schema changes. If you change a layout, then you are the one making the layout changes, not a byproduct of some other change, which would mean that the layout updating of a field name would go away, which I think is okay.
Well, it'd be nice if it was at least transparent about what it was doing and not doing. If it actually went through and just showed you, or asked you whether or not you want to an attempt to do that.
Yeah, or maybe, yeah, exactly. Where there would be an option. Would you like to update references of this field? You know, and then you would say yes, and then you know,
give you a summary of what it did.
Yeah, so, like it could be like.
So then you could then you would know that whether or not it, you know, you could assess whether or not it did what it said it was going to do or not, because you know probably know how many layouts that may be on and so on.
Yeah, I mean, this is a trivial example, but imagine you've got 300 or 400 layouts in a complex solution, and it goes making changes in places. Well, you know, mind you, if you delete a field and it's on a layout, you're asking for trouble. So especially if it's referenced. Anyway,
can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So I feel like it is somewhat related to what you are talking about, just at a different degree. So if I'm asking you, when, say, you or someone on your team has to be doing something that will be reporting about when a record, okay, and I'm doing like air quote record, okay, has last been modified and by whom, okay. But the thing is, in how the system is architectured, you know, maybe you have narrow tables, okay, or maybe you have a document that has portal rows and the edits are happening in the portal rows. So are you going to be surfacing the modification into like parent record, or if it's a one-to-one relationship into the like master, the one that holds everything, or are you just going to leave the edits in the records where they are, and say, well, technically you didn't edit the header of the document, you edited one of the child records, and that's where the edit is. Whereas perhaps to a user looking at the screen, they would say, no, I've edited the document. You know, I don't care that it's in one of the line items. That the document should state that it was modified. So do you see kind of what I'm trying to parallel with the XML here?
Yeah, so like if I think about it like a parent, like a customer and invoices, right? And I change the invoice in a portal, I'm locking the parent as well, because FileMaker is inherently transactional. So it's going to lock the parent until I commit my change, and the parent record gets updated at the same time that the client record got updated. And that's the correct behavior. If you look at a layout, belongs in a catalog, a layout catalog. And if I change a layout, I'm changing the catalog because I'm updating one of the child members of that catalog. It updates its parent. But what I don't like is the fact that there's side effects where I'm updating a child that is a record inside the table catalog or the field catalog, and it's going and updating a child in another catalog and the catalog of that and its parent. That to me is wrong.
Mm-hmm. I think you're getting a lock on the parent, but I'm not sure that it translates to an actual edit to the parent. But
it does. Anyway. It does.
Vince, if we weren't being recorded, I would agree with you. Yes, I think this is probably something that the people at FileMaker, I'm guessing that they're aware of it, obviously, because you told them. And I think that the specific demonstration of like modifying something in the relationship graph, which is its own catalog, right? And then having it affect increment things in other catalogs, that doesn't make sense.
Well, I mean, but it stems from the behavior that we just saw from the other example, right?
When you just put a
Yes.
note in the relationship graph, and maybe I missed something here. You went to the relationship graph, you added a note.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You can add another table occurrence. It doesn't
Well, I
matter.
just
If
like,
you go into the
how does
graph,
I mean, I could understand. Here's what I could understand. I could understand renaming a table occurrence upon which a field is based,
hmm
and thereby, in other words, you're touching something in the relationship graph that exists in a discernible fashion on a layout. What the idea of a note, like if I put a
hmm
note on a relationship graph, I'm not expecting a note to show up on the layout. That was above and beyond. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. And it's just surfacing because I'm digging through this like crazy, and
Right.
and it just it's one of those things where it's like a double take. It's like, wait a minute, I just changed the field. How come I'm seeing all these other changes when I didn't make those changes, right? And so when you dig and dig and dig, you start to realize like, oh, that actually is doing this other thing as well. And to me, that's, I mean, if we're gonna want to move towards something that is very accurate to represent, like, okay, Mercuria went in, he's our designer, and he made layout changes, and then Steve went in and did some schema changes. Why is Steve's name showing up in the work that Mercuria did? That's totally wrong, So
There's a lot of false
anyway.
positive there that we'd have to filter out. Like it gets very noisy, is your point, I think, right?
Well, yeah, not only that, but it's inaccurate, and and again, like you said, if you I just have 5 layouts, but if you have 200, 300, and you make one schema change, now you have 300 layouts being modified by one schema change.
Yeah.
Um,
Sorry. Yeah. So and I didn't mean noisy in terms of volume. I meant noisy as in it troubles the water in terms of like you're trying to pick up the signal, and there's noise on the transmission. It makes the signal harder to discern. Yeah.
And I would also consider that if they remove this kind of behavior, that our development work would probably speed up, because when you have a large system and you're getting out of the schema and you're seeing that dialogue updating references and you're waiting for that dialogue to go away, that would be gone because there is no references to update. I would be changing the schema, I would save it out, the catalog would get updated, poof, I'm done, So
are you talking about like rebuilding dependencies?
Yeah, that's whatever the term is, but yeah, rebuilding the dependencies, and you get the option to cancel it. I think there's 2 dialogues, and I forget what they are, but especially if you have a large system where beyond a certain point, it gets kind of busy. So
I think you just want the opportunity to cancel that right at the beginning before it even gets started, and that way you can
or you have the option.
They call them dependencies makes it scary to cancel it. You're like, really?
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
right.
Yeah. So anyway, I thought I'd share that. It's
Interesting.
Yeah, but that change in the graph should not have affected any layouts. It was not a layout change. It was the graph change that wasn't even anything in the schema. It was just that note. Which is what really kind of surprised me, that it would show up as a layout change. So
yeah, well, again, going back to the first topic I did, right? So
right.
the changing the schema, right? Anything in the schema is inside, well, there's different catalogs in the schema. There's a field catalog, there's a table occurrence catalog, there's a relationship catalog, there's a table catalog. And so any one of those changes has an effect on here. So like imagine, I guess if you change the table occurrence name, sometimes a fully qualified field name, if there are references of it, those might need to get updated. I don't know. We haven't tested a fully qualified field name in our tests from before, but anyway.
But I would expect layout to get an update of that because it's the name of the table occurrence and or the name of the field. But just putting that note on the graph should not have affected layout in any way because it wasn't a table or field name change.
Yeah, but I would go a step further, Bev, and I would say that I haven't made a explicit change to the layout. And so it should not change anything with regards to the layout.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
You're agreeing.
Yeah. So even if I change the table occurrence name, the layout is bound to that table occurrence. That's going to have a different layout table occurrence name associated with the layout, but it still should not update the layout catalog of making a table occurrence change. I think they should be siloed. They should all be siloed.
Right. They should be scoped to the zone in which the change was made. Like if you go into the relationship graph and make a change in the relationship graph, those changes should be scoped or filtered or constrained to affect that catalog, and all of the side effects should be within the code. And the FileMaker people are very smart. They've got some legacy code to work with. They just need to kind of take the code that implements the low code feature and then truncate it, cut it off and say, if I'm doing this, then don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's good you're bringing this all to their attention because you're digging deep here.
And Vince, have you been speaking about this with Dave Ramsey and say, I believe, is it Nick Orr?
Nick Orr, no. I think they're aware of these things too. I haven't spoken to them, and a long time ago we had like a group meeting, all three of us. I can't remember what it was and how. Maybe this was a while ago, but
I would be really curious to just like assist to one of those group meetings if ever you have one again. I'm sure it would be rich in plenty of things. So.
Well, I'll bring up one other thing I discovered, which is I think, and this is on their radar too. I brought it to their attention, and this goes to the point that the XML, the save as XML, has different consumers. So save as XML is used for the update tool. It's used for hey, I have this XML, and I want to recreate a file from the XML. So I'm going to just add water and you've got a new file, right? So use the XML to create a new file, or maybe some components of it for copying or pasting. Anyway, just different consumers. One of the consumers happens to be third-party developers that use this to do reporting, right? So if I put a script in here, and I put in a script and I put in another script, and then I go and attach that script to a button. So then I go say single script, this first one, and I'll make this blue. I'll make another button, make it green, red, orange. And I'll do it to the second script. I'll rename the scripts in just a minute. Okay, so actually just to find them, let me do this. Let me put some text here that you can't pronounce. All right, so I'll call this A. I'll call this B. Okay, so I've got two scripts. They're attached to the buttons. They don't do anything. Now I'm going to go and delete script B. Okay, so that's gone. So this one is broken, and this one, so just to prove the point, that one still works. This one is broken. Okay, so usually you go in here, you go to database design report, generate the database design report. And then if you open this up and you go look for that text, there's that object. And if we look in here, there's going to be a button object, and it's performing a script, and it's the letter A. All good, right? Because was it this one? Was it this one? Yeah, I put the object on there. So, but if we go a little further, let me actually put another text on here and save that out again. Okay, so now I have this other object, which is just down here. If I go a little further down, we'll see that we have a perform script unknown, right? It's broken, right? So mind you, you have to look for this specific string, etc. And it's, sometimes it's done differently for other things. So it's not consistent. It would be great to just have a flag that says problem or error or missing or whatever, but that's not the case. Okay, so now we see that if you were to process this XML or this DDR, you'd have one working reference and one broken reference. We do the same thing for save as XML. Save. So save it to. Okay, so I have this one here, and then go back to the top, find that second object. Okay, there's that layout object. There's the one just above it, right? There's this object, this button. So there's where the object, the button, that's got this name, and there's the script reference. The one just below it, look at that. No script reference. It's gone. So there's no way for us to tell, like, hey, you have a problem here, right? And the reason is because if they were to consume this XML and create an update or whatever, God knows whatever they're doing with it, like update tool or copy or recreate the file, they don't want to recreate problems. So that's great for their consumers of their side, but it causes complete chaos and havoc for people who want to consume this to do reporting and finding problems. And I mean, the three things that people use these tools for: references, problems, and dependency. References, problems. What was the third one? I don't know. I think there's a third one I usually refer to, but it's really, where's this thing used and what problems do I have that I need to fix? Those are the main issues. And so this is a major problem, and they know it. I believe they're going to address it, but when, I don't know. So anyway, there's a lot of, yeah.
Hey Vince, you made a good case there that the top level round trip or recreate the file update tool, and then this third customer. In your opinion, could they put an attribute on some level of the object structure to say, you see this, here is this node that we're including, and it's got an attribute of Vince, let's call it.
Or problem, or missing.
Yeah, maybe problem would be better. It's like, this is for our third-party tool producers. And
yeah,
then,
I mean,
then they could have everything, because I know they want to centralize their XML efforts.
Yeah, so I think the thinking that Clay might have mentioned at some point, I think it was in that other meeting, but anyway, there might be different versions of this XML. So like if you were to go to here,
oh yeah, that would be even better in some ways.
It could be
show me the problems, include problems,
like, or detailed or light, or I don't know what they call it, but then the same thing, right? If you're in here and you say save as XML, you'd have you'd have an option, like, a pop-up menu to choose the type of XML you want. You want the detailed one, or you want the one that's used for update. You want the one that's used for the add-on. I don't know. I don't know all the consumers, but you get the point, right? So
Yeah.
So
there's more than they could either make it in the generation of the XML generating different, or the XML itself being able to be parsed different. Probably the first is better than the second.
Yeah. He mentioned that in the FMDisc meeting. That,
yeah.
That
they were
they
thinking
may
of
have to do two versions of it.
Two different outputs. It would be just basically flavors.
One for analysis and one for just simply the recreation.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be. It would just be slight differences in the rendering output. They'd have to figure out how to kind of like what to remove. But they're basically
no. They keep it the way they have it now, and then the other one they just add all the stuff that somehow they're magically removing because it's broken or whatever.
Right. So in other words, currently what you just showed here, they leave the button. The button is still part of the XML, but they remove the broken object. And there's tons of different broken objects. They're just keeping as much as they can and removing something that's specifically broken. And that's what and they could put it back, as you said, or they could output it with the tag saying this is broken. And they're probably going to go with the first because it's a cleaner output.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's very cool. Interesting.
Yeah. Well, that's all I have to share. And I think we managed to have a good discussion about different things. I hope it was informative, and you're all going to go bug Claris about my wishes.
Vince, I think this is going to be your first topic, and this one is going to be like one of those songs you just can't get out of your head, as it's going to consume how many hours as people try to figure out how big that force field is and all the other things.
Yep.
And those that missed the beginning of the meeting, we talked about the new custom connector tool that has been launched, and posted a link. So if you didn't get that, I think we're going to put it on the website, or we can post it again.
Yeah. Usually we get the chat a text, and then we'll add the links there to the meeting
that'd be good.
I was curious if David Simpson had any comments on some of what Vince demoed here.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, I had not looked at the new Save as XML, that carefully yet. I'm still using, the traditional one when I read files, but I would like to do a lot more with it in the future, because that's the prospect of having additional information in there to be able to do more analysis of the files and what's going on with them.
Yeah.
What's the solution? Like, you have to like export both of them and get all you can out of each one, or?
I'm not going to do that.
So actually, Vince, I have a question for you. Have you started using the new Save as XML in your product yet, or is it?
I'm in the middle of it. That's why I'm like really deep into all kinds of stuff. I started 2 years ago, maybe more, rewriting all my XSLs that I had to use the new format, and so that's why Clay complained that I keep pestering them, because I find all kinds of things that are inconsistent and missing or broken, and so anyway, So the plan is to switch over, and I'm moving forward with my work and should have something by early next year. But it's things are looking good, lots to do, but yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's something I'm thinking about doing as well, but I've not gotten that far yet. I've been too busy recently with the various AI features and automated code conversions and things like that. So I haven't delved into the XML yet.
Yeah. All right. Eric, shall we wrap it?
Yeah, 7 o'clock. I think it's good.
All right.
Thanks for the show.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vince.
Everyone.
Hey, Eric, you're grabbing
Bye.
the chat. You're grabbing the chat there.
Oh yeah, whoops. Let's get this chat out here.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't always get a copy.
Let me know if you got it.
All right, I got it.
You got it?
Yep.
Okay. See you, everyone.
See
Till
ya.
next time.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Look at that. Actually, still recording too. Yep.
Oh, do you have control of when it stops recording or no?
I do not.
Okay.
For a second, I thought you would say, "Look at that, we still have Robert and Tony again."
Yeah, I should really get out of here.
And there's usually one additional person who's just walked away earlier for dinner. Because we're still recording, and because I've got some other things, I'll just thanks for the show. I thought that was surprisingly interesting for a late meeting scramble.
Yeah, yeah, and something that would start out as what looked like just trivial, and then it was yeah. There's
Well, I mean,
implications there.
Yeah, literally the first thing that Vince showed about the force field and stuff like that, I've had a conversation. I'm lobbying. I've done it more and more. I've done it for calculation fields, as people know. I have a suffix and I like it. And I saw times the downside of having a suffix on like just regular fields, like delete underscore n or active underscore n or whatever. The downside, I mean, there are downsides because in the export, your users like, ooh, why does it say delete underscore n? And to which I would say, because it's a number field. And if they say what's a number field, I'm like, well, I'll give you a button to export. And it shows up in the sort dialogues, and if they, same thing. It's like, oh, I'm confused. I'm like, well, I'll give you a button to sorts, but it's a real issue.
Well, it's on mine where it's important on the interface. If it's a multi-word thing, usually I'm using camel case, so I'll end up splitting that up.
You're going to be safe. It seems the demos that Vince did was very accommodating, and it seems that it's a limited use case. It's just not zero,
Yeah.
Eric, do you have like an established lineup for your next couple of months? Because
that was the problem today. Actually, is we didn't have anybody, and we were scrambling towards the end to get somebody. We don't have anybody for the rest of the year, really. And so yes, we are looking for
good, because I recall on one of the things that happened before the summer, we touched base on, I think it was like error trapping, and we said there's a good topic there to go with, and I said I'd be happy to present anytime. So I didn't know that you had sort of an empty slot for September, and technically, I mean, if Steve had been with us, we could have had like an extra set of slide from Claris about what Vince covered and things like that. So, but all in all, I'm just letting you know if you want me to
do you want
one of those?
Would you like to carry a whole meeting, or do you want to be in a meeting that's on that theme, like one of multiple speakers?
I don't know what are you talking about? One with multiple speakers?
Well, you're talking about the presentation. You were talking about like a presentation with error trapping, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Like how much time are you envisioning? I believe it's
I think I have, like, depending on the groups and the reaction, it's always that. But usually I can go for something like 45 minutes and end up with like interactions for 10 to 15 minutes. So usually I get to cover about an hour.
Okay. But yeah, I think that's a topic that Vince is typically interested in too. So he may have things to say.
Yes, and I suspect, like I say, because the last time we barely, we started talking about it just a little bit, but everyone had something to say. So I feel like with this group, even if I was to kind of gauge and say, okay, well, it sounds like people have a lot to say. Let's just skim through my own material and open wider on general discussion. We'd have wiggle room to go one way or another. Basically, is my thinking on this.
So yeah, go ahead and send me an email with a description. Have you given this presentation anywhere yet?
I did it in French.
Oh, okay.
And I've done it maybe for one other user group. I don't think it was recorded.
Okay.
I'd have to check.
Well, let's get it recorded. Yeah, send that to me, and we'll go ahead and plan on that.
Okay.
Next month would probably be okay.
I assume so. I need to know what are the dates, but we can hash those things out in the emails.
Yeah, let's go for it.
All right.
Thank you.
Awesome. Anytime.